Hello, and welcome to the first part of our Identity Blueprint mini course. I'm so glad you're here because what we're going to explore today has the power to transform how you make decisions, pursue your goals, and navigate life's complexities. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt torn between two different options, unsure of which path to take? Or maybe you've made decisions that look good on paper, but left you feeling empty or misaligned. Perhaps you've noticed that some of your most successful, fulfilled friends seem to have this inner compass that guides them. They know what they want, and they aren't easily swayed by others' expectations or society's pressures. What if I told you that this inner compass isn't something you're born with or without? It's something you can discover and develop. That's exactly what we're going to do in this mini course, starting today with the foundation, your core values. Here's why this matters so much. Values play an important role in shaping how you respond to situations, how you set goals, and make thoughtful, wise decisions. By consistently aligning our decisions with our core values, we not only simplify the decision-making process, but we also ensure that our actions are consistently reflecting our principles. Think about it. How many decisions do you make in a day? From what to wear, what to eat, how to spend your time, to bigger choices about relationships, career moves, life directions. When you have clarity on your core values, these decisions become easier because you have criteria to evaluate them against. Remember, the goal isn't to make perfect decisions every time, but rather to make choices that align with who we are and what we think is important. In doing so, we not only reduce decision fatigue, but we deliberately create our environment in a way that feels genuine and fulfilling to us. Over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to walk you through a proven process to identify your core values. Not just any values, but the ones that are truly central to who you are. We'll use Brene Brown's trusted method, plus I'll share an alternative approach that might resonate with you differently. By the end, you'll have your personal value system clearly defined and understand exactly how to use it in both your personal and professional life. So grab a notebook or open a document on your computer. You'll want to work through this actively, not just watch passively. Are you ready? Let's discover what truly drives you. Before we dive into the discovery process, let's make sure we're on the same page about what core values actually are and why they're so powerful. Core values are the fundamental beliefs about what's important in life. They're the principles that guide your behavior and decision making, often operating beneath the surface of your conscious awareness. Think of them as your internal GPS system. They help you navigate towards what matters most to you and away from what doesn't serve you. Your core values do three essential things for you. First, they guide your behavior. They help you behave in a way that matches who you want to be. When you know your values, you're less likely to act in ways that later make you feel regretful or inauthentic. Instead, you naturally gravitate towards actions that feel right and aligned. Second, they help you make better decisions. When you're facing a decision, you can ask yourself what someone who values the things you do would choose. This is especially true when choosing a career move. When you know what matters to you, it's easier to choose the right career path. Instead of being paralyzed by endless options or swayed by external pressures, you have clear criteria for evaluation. Third, they increase your confidence. Identifying your values brings a sense of safety and stability into your life because you know what you want and what's important to you. This self-knowledge becomes an anchor during uncertain times and is a source of strength when others question your choices. I want you to think about someone you admire, someone who seems to live with integrity and purpose. I'll bet that when you observe them, you notice they have clear boundaries, they make decisions that seem consistent with their character, and they don't seem to be consistently second-guessing themselves. That's the power of living from your core values. Now, here's something important to understand. Most of us have many values that are important to us. You might value family, creativity, security, adventure, helping others, personal growth, and many more. But research shows that we can really only hold about 2 core values at our center. These are the ones that when push comes to shove, we won't compromise on. The rest become what we call supporting values. They're important. They inform our choices, but they're not quite as central to our identity as our core 2. So our goal today is to help you identify those 2 core values and organize the rest in a supporting framework. Ready to begin? All right, let's dive into the discovery process. We're going to start with Brené Brown's method, which I love because it's both systematic and intuitive. First, I want you to go to Brené Brown's website. You can find this easily by searching Brené Brown's value list and download her comprehensive list of values. It contains over 100 different values, everything from authenticity to wisdom, adventure to spirituality. Pause the video. I'll be here when you get back. Here's what we're going to do. Step 1. The initial sort, read through the entire list and circle or highlight every value that resonates with you. Don't overthink this. If you read a word and you think, yes, this is important to me, mark it. You'll probably end up with about 20 to 30 values, and that's great. Step 2, the first narrowing. Now look at your marked values and choose the 10 that feel the most essential to who you are. This is where it starts to get harder, but trust your gut. Ask yourself, if I could only live by 10 values, which ones would they be? Step 3, the difficult choices. From those 10, narrow down to 5. This is where the real self-discovery happens. You'll start to see patterns and priorities emerge. You might notice that some values are actually very similar. Maybe you chose both creativity and innovation, and you realize they're essentially the same thing for you. Step 4, finding your core 2. Finally, from those 5, identify your 2 core values. These are the values that if you had to give up everything else, you would still hold on to. They're the non-negotiables, the ones that define you most essentially. This process can feel challenging, and that's natural. You might think, but I value all of these things, and you do. But the point is to identify which ones are truly central versus important, but secondary and supportive of your 2 core values. Here's a helpful question to ask yourself as you narrow down. When I'm at my best, when I feel most authentically myself, which values am I living from? Or try this. If someone who knew me well had to describe what I stand for using just 2 words, what might they be? Take your time with this. There's no rush, and there are no wrong answers. The goal is honest self-reflection, not finding the right values or the ones that sound most impressive. Once you have your 2 core values identified, write them down clearly. Below them, List those other important values as your supporting values. They're still part of who you are, just not as quite as central. Now, before we move on, I want to show you an alternative approach that might help you verify your choices or give you a different pathway to the same destination. Some people find that working from a list feels limiting, or they want to approach this from a different angle. So here's an alternative method that often leads to the same core values, but through a different pathway. It's called the Life Moments Method. Instead of starting with a list, think about 3 to 5 moments in your life when you felt most alive, proud, or authentically yourself. These could be achievements, experiences, relationships, or even quiet moments of personal satisfaction. Write down each moment briefly, and then ask yourself, what values was I honoring in this moment? What was important to me here that made this feel so significant? For example, maybe you remember the moment you decided to change careers to something more meaningful. What values were you honoring? Perhaps authenticity, courage, or personal growth. Or maybe you think about a time when you stood up for someone who was being treated unfairly. What values showed up there? Justice, compassion, integrity? Do this for each of your meaningful moments, and then look for patterns. Which values keep showing up across different experiences? Those repeated themes are likely pointing towards your core values. Now you can flip this and think about times when you feel most frustrated or angry or disappointed. Often these emotions arise when our core values are being violated or ignored. Whether you used Brene Brown's method or this life moments approach, or both, you should now have clarity on your 2 core values and your supporting values. Take a moment to write them down clearly and make sure they feel right to you. Now let's talk about how to use this in real life, because self-knowledge without application isn't particularly useful. In your personal life, use your value as a decision-making filter. When you consider how to spend your weekend, which relationships to invest in, or even what kind of living situation to choose, ask yourself, does this align with my core values? Will this help me express what's most important to me? In your professional life, this becomes incredibly powerful for career decisions. When evaluating job opportunities, don't just look at salaries and benefits. Look at the company culture, the type of work you'll be doing, and how you will be expected to operate. If one of your core values is creativity, and you're considering a role that's purely administrative with no creative outlet, that's valuable information. Your values can also guide how you approach your current work. If authenticity is core to you, maybe that influences how you communicate with colleagues or how you present ideas in meetings. Remember what we established at the beginning. The goal isn't to make perfect decisions every time, but rather to make choices that align with who we are and what we think is important. Your core values are now your compass for doing exactly that. This core values work is just the first part of your identity blueprint. In the next section, we'll explore your strengths and how they complement your values to create your unique contribution to the world. And in the final section, we will help you identify your purpose and vision, how you want to use your values and strength to make an impact. Each piece builds on the others to create a complete picture of who you are and how you can show up most authentically in the world. I hope you'll join me for the complete journey. Thank you for doing this important work with me today. Your future self will thank you for the clarity and the confidence this brings to your decision making. I'll see you in the next section about signature strengths.